Hello, everyone. Welcome and good morning. Welcome to this webinar and matchmaking on research and development on energy in Romania with the Eea and Norway Grants. We are starting our event slowly now. My name is Ranveig. I work for Innovation Norway in Oslo, and I will be the moderator throughout our day today. We can see that the number of attendees is rising. We will have a webinar now for 1.5 hours. It is packed full of information about short information about the Eea and Norway Grants in Romania, about the energy program under the Eea and Norway Grants in Romania, and about this open call for project proposals, which is under the energy program and which deals with research and development on energy in Romania. So you will get information about the information you need to consider whether you wish to apply for project funding under this call, and whether you wish to join a project as a partner coming from one of the donor states, Norway, Iceland, or Liechtenstein. So we are joined here today by attendees at the event from Romania and from Norway and Iceland. So we are pleased about that. After information, we will also talk a little bit about research in Romania and about the opportunities for bilateral cooperation with research actors and about research in Norway and in Iceland. There will also be a Q&A at the end of our webinar. It will start around 11:15 with our colleagues working with the program directly in Romania. So you can ask all questions starting now in the Q&A in writing. So you find the Q&A button up on the right here in Microsoft Teams. Otherwise, you are muted, so you can just sit back, ask questions, and follow the information until the Q&A and until 11:30, because that's when the matchmaking starts. So at that point, we will let you know. But at that point, you can have B2B meetings in B2 Match, the platform where you signed up. And you can also start booking meetings if you haven't started already. Many have, but you can also book meetings with other participants during our webinar. And I think that's it for me. We will start off by introducing Magnar, who is the director of the Eea and Norway Grants by Innovation Norway. Magnar, you are on now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ranveig. I'll try to kickstart this webinar with putting the program a little bit into context, and also tell you briefly about Innovation Norway. So I'll try to share my presentation. Hopefully that will work. So can you see it? Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes, good. Eea and Norway Grants. Perhaps some of you have heard about the mechanism. It can kind of be compared to the structural funds. It's a contribution from Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein under the Eea agreement. The Eea agreement is the agreement that then link the three countries to the EU internal market, and the Eea and Norway Grants is then the kind of the contribution that will mirror then the contribution that the member states will have to give through the structural funds. So the mechanisms, they have two important objectives. The first one is to contribute to reducing economic and social disparities within the European Economic Area. But also equally important, the objective is to strengthen the relations between Norway, Iceland, Liechtenstein and the beneficiary countries, then of course including Romania. We are now in the program period that is officially named 2014-2021, but then the implementation of the programs and the projects will run until the spring of 2024. The total allocation for this program period is 2.8 billion euros, 2 programs in 15 countries. And many of the 15 countries, they have included energy programs in their program portfolio, including Romania. And this program is of course what we will focus on today. And energy is a very important area for the Eea and Norway Grants, and that is of course also because the energy sector is very important at the European level, and the objectives of the energy programs in the Eea and Norway Grants fit very well in within the priorities and the discussions we have within the European Union. You all know about the European Green Deal. Of course, the programs in the Eea and Norway Grants, they were adopted long before we got on the European Green Deal, but of course the discussion has been going on for many years. So the programs fit very well into then the priority areas within Green Deal. You have the taxonomy discussion, we have investment in environmental friendly technologies to support the industry to innovate cleaner transport, and very important for the energy programs, decarbonization of the energy sector and more energy efficiency, and also the circular economy action plan. All the energy programs within Eea and Norway Grants, they fit very well in with these priorities. But if you look more specifically on the energy programs within Eea and Norway Grants, of course, the focus areas, they differ a little bit from program to program. But the overall objective for the programs would be to decarbonize the energy sector and to reduce CO2 emissions. So hence a strong focus on renewable energy, hydropower, geothermal energy and other renewable sources. And it's a high focus also on energy efficiency, both in the public sector, but also in the industry. And then also the programs deal with energy safety and also carbon capture storage. So that you will see in the program, and this is also reflected in the energy program in Romania. You will get more details about the program and the call later from Inger. So I will just leave it with that. But you perhaps would ask the question, who are we in Innovation Norway and why are we working in Romania? To answer the latter question first, Innovation Norway has a lot of activities related to Eea and Norway Grants. We are operating 6 programs, 2 of them in Romania, the Romanian Energy Program and the Romanian Business Program. And we have actually worked in Romania since 2007. And that was when Romania was included into the Eea and Norway Grants mechanism after you enter into the European Union. So we have long experience with working in Romania, and we have had an office in Bucharest since 2007. And you can see that we also operate programs then in other countries, Bulgaria, Greece and Croatia. And we also operate the program on social dialogue, decent work, which also is implemented in Romania. And then in addition, we are partners in a number of business programs. You can see then the countries listed to the left. So that is then the reason why we have been working in Romania since 2007, and we have increased gradually the activities. So we are now operating 2 rather large programs in Romania. But if you then look at Innovation Norway as such, we can be described as kind of a mix between a regional development agency, trade council, and a tourist board. So that's the areas where we have activities. The focus areas of Innovation Norway is then to support enterprises and startups. It's to support innovation and development in more mature companies, and it's of course also to facilitate international expansion of Norwegian companies. So we, as I said, as a kind of a regional development agency, we process approximately 8,000 to 10,000 applications from Norwegian entrepreneurs and companies annually. So that is a large part of the activities, the financing part. But as I said, we also have advisory services related to international expansion, and we have also have the task to try to then get tourists from abroad to go to Norway and so on. So we have offices all over Norway, from Vadsø in north to Grimstad in south. Of course, this is also reflecting then the areas within the most activities of businesses. So you can see we have more offices on in the south of Norway than in the north, but we cover the whole Norwegian country since we are then a regional development agency. But we also have a lot of offices abroad, all over the world. And you can see that we also then have an office in Bucharest, as I mentioned. This office is solely dealing with Eea and Norway Grants. So our staff in Bucharest is that the people you should talk to if you have a project idea or have questions related to the Eea and Norway Grants programs we are operating in Romania. And they are always eager and willing to answer questions, so don't hesitate to contact them to discuss both possible project ideas and other topics. So for the remaining part of this webinar, you will get some specific information about the program and the call. So I will just wish you the best of luck within the webinar, and not at least within the matchmaking that will follow, and hope that this webinar will contribute to a number of good project applications to be submitted under this call for proposal. So thank you very much. I'll give the floor back to Ranveig.
Thank you, Magnar. Innovation Norway works with Eea and Norway Grants across Europe, but we are lucky and happy to have an office in Romania, such a large and important one, and we look forward to hopefully being able to travel back there soon. Thank you for the introduction to the Eea and Norway Grants. We will, throughout this session, dive a little bit deeper into the material. So I will welcome Inger, who is the program director for the energy program in Romania. And Inger, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ranveig. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this webinar and matchmaking, research and development in Romania. Can you see what I'm going to talk about? Just a moment.
You want a presentation up? It was nice to see you first.
Yes.
One second.
Yes, not a problem. I can have a go while we are getting the presentation up. So Yeah, I'm Inger Carney. I'm the Program Director of the Energy Program in Romania in Innovation Norway, based in Oslo. And the Energy Program in Romania now provides funding for research and development projects on renewable energy. A total of 4.1 million euro is available. The projects can be implemented in cooperation between Romanian R&D actors and R&D actors from Norway, Iceland, or Liechtenstein. It is therefore great that you have joined us here today to learn more about the funding opportunities, to meet with some excellent speakers, and get the chance to ask some questions. And not to forget the matchmaking part later today, where you will have the chance to connect with a relevant partner for your project idea. Now you can go next. In Romania, there are in the program, Energy Program in Romania, we have the donor program partners from Norway, the Norwegian Water Resources and Energy Directorate, and from Iceland, National Energy Authority. We also have the beneficiary state program partners, so Ministry of Energy in Romania and the Ministry of Environment, Romania. The expected long-term program impact is less carbon-intensive energy and increased security of supply in Romania, with a total allocation in the program of 62.8 million euro. Then we can have next slide, please. The goal of the energy program in Romania is to make the energy sector become cleaner, more economically robust, and more technologically advanced. And to achieve this, the energy program in Romania supports a wide array of activities within the field of energy. And these activities can happen within the following areas: research, development, and innovation in the energy sector, hydropower, geothermal, electrification of non-electrified households, biomass, waste to energy, wind and solar, and energy efficiency. Recently, there has been increased interest from companies as well as from local, regional, and central public authorities for the energy program in Romania. There are 41 projects in total under implementation, 20 projects on renewable energy and 21 projects on energy efficiency. Out of, so far we have one of these projects then successfully completed and finalized. And we are currently having new applications and assessing new applications under hydropower area and electrification of households and other renewable sources. Next slide, please. Activities in the upcoming period. So the open calls are research and development, which aims at enhancing research and development capacity on renewable energy, including the development of technologies, solutions, and services. We have also a call on geothermal, closing end of this month with a total budget of 3.25 million euros. And we have, not to forget, our small grant schemes, renewable energy sources for SMEs and NGOs, with a budget of 1.9 million euros, which are out as well. We are expecting for our next calls many good project applications. The expected output of the projects is increased support to renewable energy and research and development. With that, I will leave the floor to my colleagues in Innovation Norway, Gabriela Konstantin, Mihai Lucian Toniuk, and Mihaela Piroi, to present to you the call on research and development. So thank you very much, Ranveig.
Thank you, Inger, and Gabriela, you are on. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranveig. First, I would like to thank you for participating today on Research and Development webinar and matchmaking event. My name is Gabriela Constantin, and I am Program Officer at Innovation Norway Bucharest office. Our goal today is to present to you new financing opportunities in research focus area and help you understand the research and development goals under energy program in Romania. The purpose of this course is enhance research and development capacity on renewable energy, energy efficiency, and energy security. We have 3 open calls under research and development, call 5A, 5B, and small grant schemes. But before that, we also have under energy program in Romania, the travel support available. And I will ask my colleague Mihai Lucian to present this part, and then we can go back to the call.
Thank you, Gabi, and hello to all participants in this webinar. My name is Mihai Lucian Toniuk, and I'm a Program Officer at Innovation Norway Bucharest. I will briefly present you the travel support facility, which can help you by providing a travel grant in order to facilitate your travel to or from the donor states in order to physically meet your potential partner. It is worth to be mentioned that project partnerships are not mandatory, but projects implemented in partnership may receive additional points in the evaluation. So if you are considering to get a project partner, it is important to know each other before signing a partnership agreement. You could meet physically and discuss the project and the split of roles and responsibilities. The travel support budget is of 100,000 euros, and it will be available until the depletion of funds. As you can see in the slides, the lump sums which can be awarded for your travel differ depending on the country of destination. So there will be given 1,000 euros per traveling entity for travels from Liechtenstein to Romania or the other way around, and 100,000 euros per entity for travels from Norway to Romania or Romania and Norway, and 1,500 euros per entity for travels from Iceland to Romania and Romania-Iceland. Please pay attention that we only recommend to travel if it is safe, especially given the COVID-19 pandemic. And in this respect, before you make travel arrangements, we advise you to check the latest updates and the possible travel restrictions established in your country or in the destination country. Good sources of information, which you should check before making travel arrangements, are the websites of the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, who regularly publish updates on travel restrictions. Also, please note that the travel needs to be organized before the call deadline expires, so that the travel is meaningful in the context of the program and of the call under which you intend to submit a project application. Also, under the energy program, the applicant must be from Romania, while the project partners are from the donor states. Thank you for your attention, and now I'll hand over back the floor to my colleagues who will present you the R&D calls in details.
Okay, thank you. Rabbi, if you can go to the next slide, please. Research and development. So we have consulting meetings with the important actors in the field, which are with us today: Research Council of Norway, Research Development and Innovation Funding, UEFISHADE in Romania, and our program partners, Norwegian Embassy in Bucharest, Norwegian Water Resources and Energy Directorate, and National Energy Authorities, OS Iceland. We will talk about the financial mechanism and the budget available. Then we will present the eligible activities, and of course, if there are any questions, please ask your question in chat, because we will have at the final of this session a question and answer session. If you can go, please, next, Ranvald. You can see now the main elements of research and development costs, the financial mechanism available. For individual projects, the budget is 3 million euros. For Call 5E, finance from EA grants, the budget is 1.5 million euros. For Call 5B, finance from Norway grants, the budget is 1.5 million euros. And for small grant schemes, the available budget is 1.1 million euros. The minimum grant amount for individual project is 200,000 euros and the maximum grant amount is 500,000 euros. For small grant schemes, the minimum grant amount is 50,000 euros and the maximum grant amount is 200,000 euros. The eligible applicants are any entity, private or public, commercial or non-commercial, and non-governmental organizations established as legal person in Romania. And the eligible partners are any private or public entity, commercial or non-commercial, established as legal person in Norway, Iceland, Liechtenstein, or Romania. For these calls, industrial and experimental research projects that deliver impact during the program lifetime will be targeted. Contribution will be made towards increased cooperation between research institutions and enterprises. Now I will present the areas of support and eligible activities. This scheme can provide support for projects that will develop and implement activities aiming to enhance research and development capacity on renewable energy, energy efficiency, and energy security. Like novel technologies for challenges in energy transitions, from fossil-based to less carbon emissions, research and development related to technologies, equipment, tools, solution materials for the energy transitions, smart grid technologies, energy valorization of waste, pre-feasibility or feasibility studies are eligible only for the projects targeting carbon capture and storage area if they are part of an integrated project. For hydropower field, the eligible activities are energy generation in power dams originally built for water supply, cooling water for industry and irrigation, safety of classical hydropower stations operated for design conditions, safety of old hydropower stations against the effect of natural hazards, and pump storage plants. Next, we will talk about the outcomes and the output indicators of the program. The number of renewable energy, energy efficiency, and energy security technology solutions and service developed will be targeted. Number of successful joint applications for intellectual property protection, copyrights, industrial design, trademark, patents by research institutions and enterprises. And the main output indicators are increased support to renewable energy, energy efficiency, and installed capacity for production of hydropower electricity. The number of research and development of renewable energy, energy efficiency, and energy security projects supported, number of signed collaborative agreements between research institutions and enterprises involved in the program, and optionally, the projects may contribute to number of jobs created. You will see next the specific documents on research and development area which are relevant for this present course, and we encourage you very much to read it. These are guidance principles for renewable energy technologies on technology readiness level. For this call, are technology validated in lab, which means tier level 4, TRL 5, technology validated in relevant environment. TRL 6, technology pilot demonstrated in relevant environment. TRL 7, system prototype demonstration in operational environment. And TRL 8, system complete and qualified. And also very important is for you to read the Frascati manual, which represent the guidelines for collecting and reporting data on research and experimental development. For the next slide, I will present you a few aspects related to bilateral cooperation and donor partnership projects. Partnership between entities in donor countries on the one side and entities in the beneficiary countries on the other side are an important part of the Eea and Norway Grants programs. It is not mandatory, but donor partnership projects are strongly encouraged and will be awarded extra points during the project assessment process. The bilateral relations will bring you unique bilateral partnership opportunity, access to expertise, technologies, and solutions from donor states entities, Norway, Iceland, Liechtenstein. The applicant is in the driver's seat, submits the project application, signs the financing contract with Innovation Norway, and submits interim and final reports. The division of roles is in the partnership agreement. The partnership agreement should include clear division of roles, tasks, responsibilities, and cash flow. Assessment of partners' involvement in the preparation, implementation, and sharing the project results. Each partner has a significant contribution to the project activities. And with that concludes my presentation. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask in chat. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you success for the matchmaking event and submitting good project applications. I will leave the floor now to my colleague Mihaela, who will present you the financial aspect related to R&D calls. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabriela. Hello, everybody. My name is Mihaela Piroi, and I'm working as a financial program officer within the Innovation Norway Bucharest office. And for the following minutes, we will dive into the financial aspect of your potential application. So we can move forward, Ranvai, thank you. When it comes to the budget, for those of you that started writing their application or were interested in reading the call text, you saw that there are two important documents. On one hand, you find under the mandatory attachment a document which is called the Detailed Activity Budget. And then under the essential readings, you will find a guideline which will explain how you have to fill in the budget. So coming back to the document you have to attach to your application, the detailed budget, it's an Excel sheet which you will have to submit in Excel as an Excel file and also assign the scanned version, which contains 3 sheets. The first sheet is the actual budget, where you will have to fill in the eligible cost per type of activity. And the other sheets, which are called balance sheet and profit and loss sheets, are sheets where you are to input financial data. It's about historical data about your organization. Data which is useful for us in order to assess your financial capacity of implementing the project. Nevertheless, although there are 2 documents mentioned in the call text, it is very important that you correlate your budget with all the other documents that you attach to the application form. That is, the numbers you include in the budget have to be correlated with the information you include in the business plan or in the project application, or the financial statements or any other documents you attach to the application, such as price offers, if that is the case. So moving forward, we will now have a look at the way the budget looks like. So this is the first sheet, the detailed activity budget. as you can see, it's an Excel sheet. When you open it, there's a square where very important information is included. Our kind request is to read it carefully before trying to fill in the Excel. What it says, you will have to fill in only the yellow part of the Excel, the yellow columns. So on the upper part of the sheet, you have some information regarding the name of the project promoter. You will also have to list the project partners if the case. You will have to choose the focus area. And then you will start filling in the costs related to the activities you have to perform. What is very important is that you include the activities under the relevant state aid category, and that you choose the exact and the correct grant rate for the state aid. Another important issue to have in mind is that this document includes expenditures also for you as a project promoter, but also for the partners in case you decide to apply with a bilateral project. So for each type of costs, or you need to select whether the expenditure is related to the project promoter or to the project partner. You have their drop-down list. Under this sheet, please include only the eligible expenditure. So expenditure that will be reimbursed for the program. There is also an important information as regards VIT. What you need to know is that VIT is eligible under the program with the condition that is not recoverable from other sources. So this is the golden rule when it comes to VIT. Let's move forward, Ryan. There are also some important issues that I've mentioned on the following slide. When it comes to the budget. When it comes to the management, the publicity, and the legal or audit services, these are eligible expenditure. Nevertheless, their value should be correlated to the complexity of the project and the activities you envisage. Another important aspect to be mentioned is related to the cost of staff, which is assigned to the project. The cost of staff is eligible, but you have to fulfill some conditions. So the value that can be reimbursed through the program includes the actual salaries plus social security charges and other statutory rights. But one important rule is that they have to correspond to the usual policy on remuneration of the organization. Okay, so the other issues have been already tackled. So as I said, one important aspect is not to include in the budget cost only the costs that are covered by the promoter and are eligible to be financed within the call. So everything that is not eligible and will be covered by your own sources should not be included in the detailed budget. So this was about the first sheet of the Excel. We can move now forward to the other sheet, which is the balance sheet. So within this Excel sheet, you need to include historical data about your company. You will have to provide information for the last 4 years. So for this call, which ends in 2021, 0 is 2020. So from 2017 up to 2020, you will need to fill in this information. You have in the upper corner the exchange rate you have to use in order to convert the numbers from RON to euro. Where does the information come from? The information you need to put in here comes from your annual balance sheet. You will see that this Excel has it's a bit different than the structure of the annual balance sheet, the document that you submit to the financial authorities. And in order to to understand what exactly you need to put in here, you need to go to the guideline, the document I have mentioned at the beginning, which is the essential reading, attaches an essential reading to the call text. So there you will find a table which is makes the correspondence between what we expect you to include here under each heading and how you find the information in the financial statements that you submit to the financial authorities. The golden rule as for the accounting is that the total assets should be equal to the total equity and liabilities. So once you fill in this table, please pay attention to this. If this is not the case, I mean, if the figures are not filled in correctly, then you will have a warning message at the bottom of the Excel table. So instead of OK, which is now written in red, you will get an error. So you have to come back and see where the figure was wrongly introduced. The next slide is a screenshot of the profit and loss. This is also your income statement the document that you submit to the financial authorities. There you have also the exchange rate, which is the same that you have to use. Insert figures from 2020 to 2017. The correspondence you will also find in the guideline. As a general comment for both documents, balance sheets and profit and loss, is that we would recommend you to use formulas because it will be easier for us to see whether the documents have been filled in correctly. And to use the figures as have been reported to the fiscal authorities. So these recommendations are also on the next slide. We can move forward, Rambai, thank you. So only use whole figures, avoid using decimals. Our strong recommendation is to try to use formulas. And the amounts to be filled in should be the ones that you have in the balance sheet and the profit and loss as submitted to the fiscal authorities, because as an annex together with your application form, you will have to submit also this document. So we'll be checking whether the correct figures have been inserted. So as you can see, there's a simplified version of the budget. You will only need to put in what I find it as challenging is to try to identify exactly the state aid category which corresponds to the activity you like to finance, which is the case for the first sheet. As for the second and the third sheet, it's only filling in the correct numbers from the documents which are already available at the level of your organization. That was it from my side. Thank you for your attention, and should you decide to apply within our program, which we strongly encourage, I wish you good luck with your application. That is all from my side. Rambai, the floor is yours. You may be muted.
Sorry. I was saying thank you, and thank you to the energy team at Innovation Norway in Bucharest for very good and clear presentations with information that might otherwise seem complicated. This was Mihai, Lucian, Gabriela and Mihaela, and they are also the team that is ready to answer your questions in the Q&A. So I remind you that if you have any follow-up, any questions to what was just presented, you can pose questions in the Q&A, and we will get to it. So there are a lot of opportunities for projects on research and development on energy in Romania now. There is always the opportunity with the Eea and Norway Grants to cooperate bilaterally with the donor countries of the grants. So we are getting to that part of the presentation now. There's a bilateral objective always in the Eea and Norway grants to strengthen relations between Romania and Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein. So I am very pleased to welcome Mr. Torstein Vangen from the Norwegian Embassy in Bucharest. Torstein, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting the Norwegian Embassy to this important event. The Eea and Norway grants are the Norwegian contributions to the European project. And that is a project based on peaceful coexistence, solidarity, human rights values, and sustainable economies. And Romania has benefited from funding since 2007, when the country joined the European Union. Including the third program period covering the year from 2014 to 2021, the cooperation with Romania amounts to 907 million euro. And during this period, more than 250 Romanian bilateral partnership agreements have been established, involving more than 350 institutions and organizations in the two countries. And we may conclude that the ties between our countries have never been so strong as they are today. Our cooperation with Romania is divided into 12 programs. One of these programs, out of these programs, 5 of them are energy related. And this is a good example of the importance attached to the topic and very much in line with the priorities set by Norway, the European Union, and its member states. The new Green Deal, renewable energies, the circular economy, climate change adaptation, and several other concepts are high on the agenda in many countries. And the reason is quite clear. It is about the survival of the planet. It is about our ability to provide sustainable products and services, and it is about our ability to inspire coming generation to act politically. The 2 programs where Innovation Norway is the fund operator have already been presented, and let me add that these 2 programs are important in our portfolio. They represent visible results on the goals set for the program. Another important program is our civil society portfolio. The civil society represents our watchdog in a variety of topics. And together with the Norwegian Environment Agency, we are involved in important activities as conservation of biodiversity and adaptation to climate change. And finally, energy is an important component in the research and development portfolio, today's agenda. And talking about the energy sector in Romania, let us have a look at some figures. In Romania, energy represents the main source, accounting for 2/3 of national greenhouse gas emissions, followed by agriculture, industry, and waste. For this reason, let us have a closer look at even more figures. In 2020, electricity production in Romania was comprised of 12% wind power and 3% from solar panels. In total, renewable energy production, defined as wind, solar, and biomass, amounted to 16%. Hydropower represented 27%, and nuclear power 20%. Coal has dropped from 35% to 7% over the last decade, and natural gas experienced a sustainable growth from 11 to 18% in the same period. Romania reached its 2020 EU renewable targets of final energy consumption coming from renewable sources some years ago. And that placing Romania on the 10th place in the EU and above the Union's average level. And in order to reach its 2030 renewable target of 30.7%, Romania plans to add 7 gigawatt of new renewable capacity, of which around 3.7 is projected to be solar projects. Experts agree that these goals are rather ambitious. Part of the public in Romania will demand reduced dependence on coal and gas in the energy mix, and different parts of the public will demand lower energy prices after the prices on electricity went up over the last year. Norway and its 143 terawatt hours of electricity production on a yearly basis is one of the leading nations when it comes to hydropower. And research related to the capacity installed over the last 100 years was relatively easy. Easy in the sense that if you could count on competent engineers and experienced economists, you could realize whatever project presented to the political authorities. What was technically and economically feasible represented at the same time what was politically acceptable. And for professions involved, this was the golden era. The situation today is quite different. The number of institutions and people you have to consult in each and every energy project have increased dramatically. So today, what is technically and economically feasible seems to be unacceptable politically. And what is politically acceptable seems often to be technically and economically not feasible. And for this reason, the new golden era will belong to the people and researchers able to build bridges between these positions. And in a polarized, social media-driven world with plenty of conspiracy theories, I recommend the research institutions to stick to its glorious past, presenting facts and ensuring that decisions are being based on facts. You have an important mission ahead, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Torstein, for a thoughtful and inspiring, I think, presentations that you held. I won't add much, but it is important work, so thank you. We will go on to hear more about research, and we are happy to have with us Christina Mihai from the Research Council Norway. And Christina?
Hello, thank you very much. Yes.
You live.
Just hope this works. Do you see my slide? But that's not the first one. Does it come with experience with Romanian and Norwegian cooperation on your screens?
It's perfect.
Perfect. Well, it's a very good flow towards my presentation from Thorstein's appeal to the research institutions. My name is Christina Mihai, and I work for the Research Council of Norway in the Department of Renewable Energy. And during my presentation, I will briefly touch upon three things. That's the Research Council of Norway's role as a donor program partner for the research program in the Eea and Norway Grants. Then I will say a little bit about who we are in Norway and what we do. And then a bit more about energy research in Norway and try to give you some tips on your way to the application for the energy call later on. Yes, we've seen the figures before. Both from Magnar and Thorstein have talked about the Eea and Norway grants. And the Research Council of Norway is not the program operator as Innovation Norway is in this energy-specific program, but we are like several other organizations on other programs. We are the donor partner program for research. And you see here we have several countries that we have research programs with and where we are also DPP. And I want to say very much about the energy the research program and the calls and the announcements, because all the money is spent. So there is no opportunities for now for this period for cooperation in research between Romania and Norway and other Liechtenstein and Iceland country partners. But what I can say is that we are very happy from Norway with the cooperation we had with the program operator. The program operator is the institution called UFISCTE. My colleague Monica will talk a little bit more about the cause during this webinar. I can also say that you see from the graph that the two basically periods, you show you see an increase in the budgets, and that's because we had so good results with the first period of this research cooperation that in the case, for example, for Romania, we had up to 47 million euros for the second period in research. And then also you see the Baltic. We have actually for the first time Baltic program where we try to put together the three Baltic states in a program that was also quite successful. Then I will talk a little bit about the Research Council of Norway and start by saying that Norway is not just about the fjords and the beautiful landscape, but it's a country with quite a lot of natural resources. We heard about hydroelectricity from our rivers and water resources, but also other fields like minerals, mining, maritime industry that's very strong, process industry, and so forth. Here you see, I tried to find a graph to illustrate a little bit the connection between Romania and Norway. You see the spending on R&D as a GDP, as a percentage of GDP, is quite different for the two countries. It's around 0.5 for Romania and a little bit above 2% for Norway. So the two countries are quite different, but at the same time, like Thorsten said, we've never had a better cooperation than now. It brings me to my next slide about you see on your left part of the screen, the graph under. I also try to show the Romania and Norway as how much they spend on research per capita. And you can also see here that Romania spends quite a little bit compared to how much Norway spends. So the fact that the two countries are so different, it makes actually a partnership between two, from a research point of view, very interesting. I'll tell you a little bit later on why this is the case. You see also the different strong fields of research, among other the renewable energy, but you see that almost the 6 ones, I would say, the first 6 or even the last one, they go all together on this green transition to less carbon or more renewable, we can say, actually not only energy sector, but just in general societies. To your right, you see the expenditure in Norway by sector of performance. Basically what it says is that in Norway is the industry sector, basically the companies, the private sector that really does a lot of research. You see that of this 7 billion euros, almost half of this goes to the private sector. So they are actually doing a lot of research. Then, of course, together with higher sector education and also the institute sector, that is around 20% in general in research. About us, the Research Council of Norway gets a lot of money from different ministries and distributes around 1 billion euros, which is around a third of all the public investments in research, development and innovation. And this money, you see, it goes to around 40% to what we call research performing organizations. Then that's the institute sector in Norway. Then the universities and higher education around the same amount. And we also give actually money to private sector or to companies around 17% of our budget. We finance actually, or we contribute to international cooperation also in our national schemes, because this money that I talked about, we have several calls and programs for research, and we can finance a Romanian, for example, a public research institution that is a partner that you can see here, a partner, foreign partner, in a research project where the Norwegian institution is the applicant, or so it's actually it's a successful cooperation can trigger funding also from the Research Council of Norway on the national schemes. Then a little bit about energy research. The numbers, figures are here, around over 1 billion euros expenditure in energy research in 2019. And you see in my graph up to your right that this is really a lot. 76% actually go to the industry sector or the private sector. Sorry for the Norwegian graphs here. So yes, private sector is very energy. The energy research is going mostly into is done mostly by the industry sector. But when it comes to the financing, it's also the industry that leads, financing 62% of it, and we finance around 15%. When it comes to the different type of areas of the energy, you see the bar here above, the renewable energy. It's the one that is financed researched the least, and then it's what we call energy efficiency and transformation, and also quite a lot of research in the petroleum or oil and gas sector. And in all these three sectors, or in all these three areas, you see that the industry is doing quite a lot of the work. Then I was thinking, I don't know if I have so much time left, but I was thinking for your future plans or process of applications for the Innovation Norway Energy Call, especially for the Romanian partners. This is a very good starting point just to check what we call the Centers for Environmental Friendly Energy Research. These are national centers strategically chosen by the Research Council of Norway with a lot of experts behind on the different areas of research in energy. All these centers have very good websites with annual reports and a lot of partners, both from the institute and university sector, but also from the industry. I have several slides that I won't be having time to talk to, but if you are going to send the presentation to the participants, then you will have some slides with different companies that have done well in our national schemes that can help you find partners in Norway. And then before I close, why you should apply to this call? Because from what I saw, the call is quite open thematically, so it allows you to basically build your project on what you're good at. Because bilateral teams do more than networking, they actually do research together, and that brings research results that benefit the societies. That there are equal benefits or big benefits to all the participants also in Norway. And that, of course, you will have an experience towards a more complex Horizon Europe, for example, application. And because what I was saying at the beginning, Norway and Romania are so different countries, both in terms of climate, but also socioeconomic conditions and also energy situation, that actually all this together in a partnership makes it an advantage for what they call in Horizon Europe potential for upscaling and replication of your research results. So yes, baftă multă, that's good luck with your applications in Romanian.
Excellent, thank you, Christina. I think that was a presentation that was very useful. It was interesting and useful for those who might also want to find a partner in Norway, and we do encourage you to do that. We are happy to send out the presentation as well to lead you on your way. We are a little bit late in time, so we will go to our next speaker straight away. This is Monica Cruzaro.
Yes, okay, I'm here. I try to share my presentation.
Yes, great. Yeah. Monica is from the Research Development and Innovation Funding in Romania.
Is it okay?
It's not on now, but I can share it for you if you prefer.
Yeah, I think it's
okay.
It's okay, and you will figure with the with the slides for sure. Well, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to present some information about the Romanian research program funded both financial mechanisms, Eea and Norwegian Norway Grants. I will focus my presentation on our collaborative research projects implemented in the energy thematic area. I'm the coordinator of the research program, and our agency, UFICDE, acts as program operator for the research program. We work closely with our donor state partners, the Research Council of Norway and RANIS, which is a research center from Iceland. The next slide. The budget of our research program is around 55.5 million euros, which represent 85% Eea and Norway grant rate and 15% national co-financing. We organized 2 calls for proposals, one in 2018 and under Eea grants, and one in 2019 under Norway grants, having as outcome enhanced performance of Romanian research internationally. As you notice, our eligible applicants, the project promoters, are research organizations established in Romania, and eligible partners are research organizations and companies established in Romania, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein in case of Eea grants call, and established in Romania and Norway in case of Norway grants call. Next slide, please. Our calls support collaborative research projects in basic and applied research, industrial research, and experimental development as eligible activities. In terms of our indicators, the program follows the number of peer-reviewed scientific publications submitted or joint peer-reviewed scientific publications submitted, number of jobs creating, researchers supported, and so on. In accordance with our guideline for research program, the program follows the principles and practice of the European Framework Program, Horizon 2020, and now Horizon Europe, and the international best practice for research and innovation. The program pays particular attention to the implementation of principles and provisions of open science. And of course, it's recommended that the research projects with results related to the needs identified by companies and market demands apply to the specific calls in order to speed up their commercialization. The next slide, please. The program funds research projects within each of the following thematic areas: energy, environment, health, social sciences and humanities, ICT, and biotechnology. You see there mentioned the key topics specific for the energy thematic areas, and we fund a project in all these 5 key topics. In total, we fund 42 projects under both the Eea and Norway grants, with a total budget of 51.5 million euros. And 5 projects are funded under energy thematic area with a total budget of 6.1 million euros. And now I want to present in short all 5 projects funded by us under energy thematic area. And I will start by telling you that the partnerships created consist of 9 research organizations from Romania, 3 from Norway and 1 from Iceland, 1 small enterprise from Romania and 1 from Norway. The first project presented is funded under Eea grants. It started in 2019. It is under key topic innovative materials and technologies for energy storage, and it is now in the middle stage of its implementation. You have here the link of their website in case you are interested in more information about the project, and also the aim of the project and the social impact foreseen. According to our procedure, we organized already for this project an on-the-spot visit for verification, concerns of technical implementation aspects, financial aspects, procurement, and so on. The second project is also one funded under Eea grants within a partnership consists of a Romanian project promoter and other 4 partners. The project is developed under the key topic Eco-friendly environmental technologies for energy production generation. And it is expected that by developing stable, low-cost, optimized efficiency photovoltaic panels, the use of these devices in public and private buildings will be boosted, thus contributing to the increase of the share of renewable energy in the energy balance in Romania and donor states. We have an implementation phase, 3 projects funded under Norway grants. Okay, the next slide. Geothermal energy sources identification after joint interpretation of geodata from the Baia area is a 3-year project implemented by the University of Bucharest together with University of Oslo, and it addresses the key topic energy sources diversification balance. You have also available a very nice webpage of the project, and also as part of our dissemination procedure, the project has been promoted on our Facebook. We permanently promote our projects one by one every week on our Facebook. The next slide, please. Another project implemented in the key topic carbon capture and storage, having as aim to develop a hybrid technology based on CO2 capture using processes based on chemical absorption, as well as the use of polymeric or ceramic membranes. It is a partnership of 5 research organizations with a total budget for 3 years of 1,164,000 euros. And last but not least, the 5th project, named Climate Green, is developed under the key topic energy efficiency within the process of generation, transmission, smart grid distribution, and at the consumer or end user. Developed by the University of Agronomic Sciences and Veterinary Medicine of Bucharest in partnership with Sintef Energy Research from Norway and a small enterprise from Romania. The basic idea is that integrated heat pumps provide both heating and cooling to the greenhouse while controlling the relative humidity. Excess heat from the summer season will be thermally stored for winter usage. In this way, the project will develop and demonstrate a sustainable production system and use it further to improve the educational materials at different levels. By the implementation of this project, the research team expects that the system will become more widely known, available, and used also in Romania, bringing economic and environmental benefits to the farmers. And my last slide. I want to wish you good luck in your applications, and in our good collaboration, all the information related to your course are promoted on our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and I present there. Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Monica. For an excellent presentation. There seems to be very good synergies between the research program in Romania and this energy program indeed. And it's always very good to see examples from projects. So thank you. We will rush on to our next speaker. And that is Mr. Bjørn Ole, who is from the Norwegian Water Resources and Energy Directorate. We'll speak about energy cooperation with Norway.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll try to share my screen with you now. It's working, right?
Perfect.
Okay. Yes, my name is Bjørn Auli. I'm coming from NVE, Norwegian Water Resources and Energy Directorate, located in Oslo, Norway. We are the so-called one of the 2 donor program partners in this energy program, in the EEA funded energy program in Romania. Being DPP or donor program partner, meaning being advisor in the program, as well as to facilitate partnerships between the recipient country and the donor countries. So yes, my institution NVE, we are a huge institution in Norway, about 600 employees. Yeah, main office in Oslo, as I said, and 5 regional offices. So you can say that our main task in NVE is, when we are subordinated to Ministry of Petroleum and Energy, is to implement the government's policy in the areas of energy, the whole energy system in the areas of energy and the water management. So we have a small presentation here, and we have divided it in 2 parts. The first is more about partnerships, and the second that will be helped by my colleague, Mr. Tore Jensen, is about some research and development areas. Yes, so I start with the partnership part. So what we know, we have heard already that in this arrangement, the applicants for project must always come from the recipient countries, in this case Romania, and entities from Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein can be partners. Partners can come from all groups, public sector, private sector, NGOs or research environments. And tasks and budget are agreed between the parties in the partnership agreement. So what can the partners from the donor side, from Iceland and Norway, contribute to? Well, first of all, they will hopefully raise the quality of the projects. And as we already heard, that partnerships give extra points in the evaluation, and development of bilateral relations between donor and between the donors and the recipient countries. It's very important in the Eea and Norway Grants arrangement. Yes, what this could be the motivation being partners from Norway and Iceland. It will differ between entities, of course, but we know that very often training, competence building for the organization and the employees is important. Of course, for many, also market expansion. This could be a first step for later potential ownership interests and or service and good deliveries in project in the recipient countries. So, of course, there are also limitations in the regulation, in the EEA regulation. So it will very often be advisory services when I'm talking about the field of energy. Pure deliveries, goods and standardized services must be advertised in the countries. So there are several models in the regulation calculating cost coverage, but not profit. So this is my last slide. This is about how to find a project partner. Well, one way is that you receive a request from potential applicants in the recipient countries. Or if we turn around the other way, the potential donor partners contact relevant applicants in the recipient countries. And donor program partners, as my institution, my organization NVE, we can facilitate contact between potential applicants and potential partners after request. Networking, matchmaking information events, as this one we have today. And also continuation of partnerships from previous program periods is also important. So before I give the floor to my colleague, Mr. Tore Jensen, I would say thank you very much to Innovation Norway for organizing this important matchmaking event today. So then Torod, my colleague, is working in the Energy and Licensing Department in NVE. So Torod, if you are ready, you can start.
Thank you, Björn. Then I'm introduced, and to save time, I'll just start on right away. But first mention that Mr. Torstein Wangen and also representatives from the Norwegian Research Council has actually given a very good presentation and arguing why is research and development projects important. I discussed a little bit with Björn, and we also go into the examples to show you what happened actually after the Second World War in Norway. Norway at that time had the problem with money, had the problem with economy and competence and the capacity, because we didn't have too many skilled workers. And in the 4 decades after the Second World War, Norway developed 400 large hydropower plants, and they are really large, all linked to industry development and also the electrifying of the country. One technology is shown here, the development of tunnel technology. And all these different steps from penstocks in the open field to very advanced hydro power plants underground. They are all based on research and development. So you could say that each of these 400 large plants actually was a so-called laboratory, where also the cooperation between the owners, the consultants, the contractors, and the research units in the universities, actually they work together. Once the problems was identified, this was taken into the laboratories in the research units and tested out and sold, and then taken out again back to the real world. Next slide, Björn. That was the 4 decades after the Second World War, and now we are back in after 2000, when Norway also started on. We wanted to know more about what are the options for small hydropower plants in Norway, and linked to that, NVE got quite a lot of money to do research works on problems that we knew small hydropower plants had. Intake is one crucial area. I guess that is also the same in, well, I know that's the same in Romania. But we also took the knowledge from the North Sea drilling for oil and gas. We took it on land, and one company supported by NV, but we had the same picture as was shown from the Research Council, that actually the industry itself paid most of the expenses. But we developed a new tunnel technology that can actually drill up to some 2 kilometers, and small, not a tunnel, but small diameters up to 1.5 meters. In that way, we cut cost, but also, as it was said, we actually did definitely reduce the environmental impacts, because no one can see it. And it also had something to do with exposed area, and also the operation, the workers, number of workers were also reduced. So in that program that lasted for some 10 years actually, but in the first 4 years, we raised our understanding of the Norwegian potential for small hydro from 7 terawatt-hours, which is quite a lot, to 25. And in 2005, we said, okay, this is the ocean. We shall not develop all of it, but maybe part of it. And in 10 years later, in 2015, 5 terawatt-hour was developed. And all of them use the technology that was also a result from the research and development. For example, on intake, because many of these have intake in rivers where that brings a lot of stone and gravel and some debris and always been caused headaches for small hydro. Next, Björn. Today we talk about the closing down nuclear plants, coal-fired plants, and all of these plants actually gives the firm power. And most countries talk about replacing that with solar and wind technology. And these technologies are phrased the variable renewable energy. So to meet that challenge, that you put in a lot of electric energy generation capacity that will definitely vary. Right these days, we see that the electricity prices in Europe actually are dramatically high because there has been very low wind. And it's said that, okay, hydropower could be part of the solution. It's actually definitely not the solution because it's not many enough of the hydropower that are big enough, have the reservoir capacity and can actually operate when the solar and wind is not operating at its capacity. But what we have seen is that if you shall operate hydropower more flexible, you actually need to go into the electro and mechanical machinery. You also need to do something with the waterways, but in this case, pictures here are the machinery, and you need to do it to change it so that it will give you a more flexible scheme. You can see here, if you look at the yellow picture there, the black figure is the existing one, and the green is the new. And this is an Pelton units from 1955. This has been upgraded and totally renewed in 2019. And all that reconstruction was based on the research and development at the university in Trondheim and close to Sintef. So it's a striking example of the new electricity system actually definitely will result in new challenges that have to be, and the solutions for it have to be met by research and development. The next, Björn. Similar goes for the wind. We have seen in Norway that probably now we have quite good wind resources on land, but no one likes to have a wind farm in his backyard. So the political situation right now is that wind on land in Norway has will meet great difficulties in being constructed. And we know from previous studies that actually the wind resources in the ocean offshore are very high. It can solve a lot of the energy needs in electricity energy needs because it's so big. And we also know that if you go to the windmills that are in the ocean, but actually on ground, on the rock, that is too close to the shore. It's too close where you have fishing boats. It's too close to many things and will have some environmental constraints. So if you go further out to the floating technology, still, I guess there will be some constraints, but these technology can be based on the experiences we have in Norway from the oil and gas technology, but there are new technology that will have to be put in, and probably we will see exactly the same what we saw after the Second World War, that you will have large wind farms floating offshore that are constructed, and at the same time, they actually also are a research and development laboratory. So we will use this opportunity to mix or to have this close cooperation once more. When we see there is a big resource, we can maybe harness part of it, but we need the technology development from the research and development projects. So that's an argument. Why do we do research and development? And next, Björn. Yeah, we have seen the same from solar energy in Norway. I worked some years ago in the research council in Norway, and actually it was a person that came to us and showed us what we believed was a soap. It was not a soap, it was what they called that time, it was a wafer. And that was part of what you see in solar cells. So if you go back to 1990, you had this Norwegian company called REC, because they came up with a new technology to produce wafers from quartz, and it exploded. Their economy actually exploded. They quickly rise to be very, very big, and they in a certain period had more than 50% of the world total production of these wafers. What we have seen today is that everyone wants to use the solar energy because it's clean, but trouble is production of the wafers are still very, very, it gives a lot of CO2 emissions. So we have also, I know work is now going on in the research and development to actually reduce CO2 emissions linked to solar cells, where you actually produce not the solar cells, but actually the product that solar cells are made of. So that's another example. And I know also that this company is in Norway, and I know that the product they can produce, unfortunately, is a little bit more expensive than other products. It produces the same product with half of the CO2 emissions, but cost a little bit more. And then, well, that's why I've written this in red. The success of new technology depends on the market that will ask for it. And I know the discussions in EU are actually, shall we not put on proof from the products that we purchase that they have a very good CO2 history. So the cheapest is not always the best.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was the presentation from NVE. Thank you very much.
You're on mute. Ranvad, you're on mute.
Thank you, NVE, for expert presentations, both with the big picture and going more into detail as well. It's excellent to have you on board as partners in this energy program. We are super behind schedule, as some have noticed. So for those of you who have meetings starting already in the B2 Match platform, in the matchmaking, we just urge you to go to them. If you don't, you are welcome to stay with us. We have one more presentation from Iceland, which you probably will not want to miss. And after that, there will be very short time for the Q&A session. But as you have seen, we are answering questions in writing as well. And those that we can't answer, we can answer via email later. So we will see if we do a short Q&A for those who stay, but if you don't, we understand that very well. Still, the last presentation is coming up, and we are excited about that because we have Maria Gudmundsdottir from Iceland joining us. I will send you live now.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I'm going to try to share my presentation then. Yep, you can see it now.
I will fix that. Looks good. Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning. And I wanted to start this off with a nice picture of our new volcano here in Iceland, which has been going up for now 6 months. Yeah, attracting a lot of tourists, so that's quite positive for us here in Iceland. I'm gonna try to be quite short today and just to focus on the highlights of the energy research and innovation that's been going on here in Iceland for the past few years, and that might be relevant to Romanian partners. First, a little bit about what we are doing here in Orkustofnun. We've been the DPP for the Eea grants for this is our second period now, and we are now involved in Poland and Bulgaria and Romania, and we were also involved in Hungary, but I'm not sure if the program there is going forward still. But and then just a quick overview of what we have been focusing on here in Iceland. We are, of course, very focused on geothermal. So if Norway is an expert in hydro, then we are the expert in geothermal here in Iceland. We've been doing a lot of research on sort of what you call the deep geothermal, so basically drilling deeper and hoping to get more energy, as well as the better utilization of all the products that come from the geothermal utilization. And then we also, of course, we have the policy of the zero carbon society coming up, and so we have been focusing on identifying the areas where we can do better there. And then there's been a lot of work being done in CO2 capture and storage here in Iceland, lots of interesting projects going on. So I'm just going to start with the geothermal. First, I want to actually mention Geothermal, which is an EU co-funded project that's quite interesting. So if you are interested in geothermal research, I would urge you to check that out as well, in addition to the Eea grants. Yeah, it has partners from 16 countries, including Norway, I think, as well. And I'm not sure if Romania is involved yet. On to the sort of the deep roots of geothermal that we've been doing here in Iceland. So basically, the aim is to drill quite deep to get really hot fluid. The idea is that then one well could produce 10 times more energy than our regular wells here in Iceland. And we have drilled 2 wells so far, and the last one was quite successful. And we are currently preparing a pilot plant to harness that energy. And then we are planning a 3rd one quite soon. And there's the better utilization of resources. So this kind of started at the Reykjanes Resource Park. The Blue Lagoon Spa, which is quite famous, was through the first aspect of this, where they used the wastewater for bathing. But now they are also using excess streams of CO2 as well as electricity, cold water and hot water to basically that companies can come and just basically surround themselves around the power plant and take those streams from the power plant. And this has been very successful. It creates a lot of jobs in the area. And I think by now these companies actually generate more income than the power plant itself. And now there's a similar one being planned at the Hellisheiði geothermal. And there's been a lot of research projects as well coming out of these cooperations between the power plants and the companies that have sort of developed into fully fledged companies by now. For example, one research project focused on producing silica from the wastewater, and now they are selling supplements all over the world. And then there's also hydrogen production there being started, as well as CO2 capture. And then the next point was the transition to zero carbon society. So the thing is, here in Iceland, we produce the vast majority, almost all our electricity with renewables, as well as our heat. So the main challenge is the transport sector. We've been doing quite well in building up the infrastructure for electric vehicles, but there has been the problem of sort of long distance and heavy transport, so we have been sort of turning our focus there to hydrogen. Then we've also been identifying where oil, or it's mostly oil that's being used. Those are mainly in the off-grid areas, as well as in district heating areas where they use electricity, which is curtailable, which basically means that when there is no excess electricity in the area, it's cut, so they have to use fossil fuels to supplement. And we also have backup power that uses fossil fuels. So now we have been working on quite hard to sort of find new solutions for these areas. The first example is in Grímsey, which is a tiny island 3 hours north of the main island. So it's very isolated, and there they've been using oil for generators, basically for everything that they do there. And now we have a big project being funded by the Energy Fund to build wind and solar infrastructure there. And you might ask why we are building solar there, but it's at the Arctic Circle. So there's plenty of sunshine there in the summer, so it's quite promising. And then every house will have heat pumps, and as you can see, the population is only 60 people there, so it's not that many houses that need the funding. So this is very exciting, and there are a few similar areas, mostly on islands or like very high in the mountains, that are quite isolated and not connected to the grid. So this might be the future solution for these areas. And then there's the transport. Like I said earlier, we have been focusing on hydrogen, and we have now a pilot plant at the Hellishey Geothermal plant where they use the off-peak power to produce hydrogen. And it's now available at special stations. So if you have a hydrogen car, it's easy to get. And scale-up can be easily implemented if the customer is there to buy the hydrogen. Then there's the heat pumps that we have been installing. So like I mentioned earlier, we have district heating systems that use electricity but have to supplement by oil. So the worst problem was in Vestmannaeyjar, which is an island south of the main island. So and recently they decided to install a heat pump instead. It uses 7 degrees seawater, and now has decreased their electricity use by 75%. So there's a huge increase in efficiency there. And then a bit different example is in Tálknafjörður, where they had geothermal water, but it was basically too cold to use for heating. But now they're going to use a heat pump to raise the temperature. And then that also saves energy as well as cost. Then we have our CO2 capture and storage projects. The most famous one is the Carbfix one, where they just inject the CO2 and it turns to stone in less than 2 years. And it's quite cheap and also very fast. But the problem is that it does require basaltic bedrock, which is not available in most areas. But the idea is also that the CO2 can be imported to Iceland to be re-injected here. And a continuation of this is the capture pilot plant, apparently the world's biggest now, as I saw from the news this week. So I think this is a Swiss company which is installing these pilot carbon collectors. So they actually collect the carbon from the atmosphere, and then they re-inject it using the Carbfix method. Yes, so these were a few of the sort of examples of what we are doing here in Iceland, and I decided to also include sort of how to find partners in Iceland. So there's us, who are the DPP for the energy program, and then Rannis, which is the DPP for the research program, and then also the foreign ministry, which oversees the EEA grants, has been building a database on their website. So you can also go there and just look up partners in your relevant area. So, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Always exciting to hear what's going on in Iceland, but especially in this area. That is great, and I hope a lot of people are inspired and would like to partner up with entities in Iceland. It's great to have that database and help with that too, so thank you. Okay, we are still running over time, obviously, but we have decided to embrace it a little bit. Those of you who have meetings, go attend the meetings, but we see that many are still here, so we will try to do a super fast Q&A session at the end of this before the matchmaking can start. And also while the Q&A is going on, we remind you that you can still book meetings in the matchmaking, possibly inspired by the presentations. And we would also like to remind you that you can book meetings with us at Innovation Norway. So basically the people that you have seen on screen from Innovation Norway. For example, you book a meeting with me if you're looking for a partner in Norway, or with our financial officer for questions about that, or program officers for general questions about application processes and so on. We are one of the profiles in the B2Match platform. Okay, but now we will go to Alina, who will moderate this Q&A session. Alina, thank you.
Hello, so my name is Alina Toporash. I'm the communications officer here in the Bucharest office. And since we're running a bit behind, if you agree, we're just going to be tackling the questions that we have prepared in advance, because most of the questions have already been answered by my colleagues in the chat function. So if that's an okay approach with everyone, I will just read the first question, which we got a lot on our email address, ro.energy@innovationnorway.no. So one of it is, are in-kind contributions accepted as co-financing? And in this case, the answer is that all of the projects under the research category, in this respect, staff costs, that is man hours, are eligible costs and can also constitute the co-financing of the project. And the calculation of eligible costs shall be made based on the actual salaries paid by the promoter or the partner, including the required social security contribution. All of these costs related to the salaries of the staff, that is either teachers or researchers, must be paid and documented, and these have to be sent to Innovation Norway in order to be accepted. Another question, is the purchase of equipment or investments in renewable energy production equipment, are these eligible in the R&D calls? Our reply is that the investments do not qualify as R&D unless it is equipment used as a part of the research and development. Even then, only the depreciation cost would be eligible, and with a long lifetime, for instance, the turbine or of the PV panels, that would then only be a small part of the project cost. And the last question we have prepared, and we have gotten a lot, is are the pre-feasibility or feasibility studies eligible costs under this call? They can only, these costs, these pre-feasibility and feasibility studies can only be made in relation to carbon capture storage, CCS, as my colleague Gabi has mentioned. But also the elaboration of pre-feasibility and feasibility studies for carbon capture and storage need to be part of an integrated project and cannot represent a standalone activity. I think these are the questions that we prepared in advance, and like I said, all of the other ones have been answered. And if you have further questions, please address them to the email address ro.energy@innovationnorway.no. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our webinar for today. So it remains to remind you that there was a lot of information and you can find all of it on our website. And we hope you go directly into BTmatch to attend meetings and book meetings there with potential partners. And otherwise, we just thank you a lot for participating. And we wish you good luck in the start of the process. And we are here to help you via email or phone if you have any more questions. So on behalf of all my colleagues, thanks a lot.